Beyond the dark horizon lies a story that no one else is brave enough to tell the world. We sail into the unknown to bring you the raw, unfiltered truth of the human experience. Subscribe now and follow us to the edge of the world and back again. The day my sister's wedding became the day my grandmother rewrote everything. I was standing in the parking lot of St. Augustine's Church with my 4-year-old daughter Lily on my hip, wearing a dress I'd ironed 3 times because I wanted everything to be perfect. I could hear the organ music from outside. Through the tall wooden doors, I could see the glow of candles, the blur of white and gold decorations, the backs of people's heads filling every pew. My mother had spent 11 months planning this wedding. Every centerpiece, every menu card, every seating arrangement had gone through her hands. Mine had not been one of the names on the seating chart. I found that out 30 minutes earlier when my cousin called me while I was still on the highway. "Claire," she said, and her voice had that careful tone people use when they're about to say something they don't want to say. "Did you get a seat assignment?" I told her I hadn't. I assumed my mother had everything handled. I assumed, like I always did, that being family meant I belonged there without needing to be told so. "You're not on the list," she said. "I'm so sorry. I looked twice." I pulled into the church parking lot anyway. I sat in my car for a few minutes with the engine running and Lily asleep in her car seat, her small head tilted to the side, her mouth slightly open. She was wearing white tights and a dress with tiny pink flowers that I'd bought specifically for this day. I'd told her for weeks that we were going to Aunt Rachel's wedding. I'd told her she would get to throw flower petals. I got her out of the car. I figured there had been a mistake. Mistakes happen. I was Rachel's sister. Of course I was supposed to be there. I opened the church doors. My mother was standing in the vestibule in a pale blue mother of the bride dress, her hair in a French twist, a corsage on her wrist. She looked beautiful. She also looked at me the way you look at someone who has shown up somewhere they were not invited. "Claire." Her voice was low, controlled, the way it always got when she was managing a situation. "What are you doing here?" "I'm here for the wedding," I said. "Rachel's wedding. My sister's wedding. The ceremony is about to start. We're at capacity." I looked past her. The church could hold 300 people. I could see open seats from where I was standing. "Mom," I said, "I'm her sister. You should have RSVP'd properly. This isn't the time to discuss it." She stepped slightly to the side, positioning herself between me and the door to the main hall. "There's a diner on Route 9. Take Lily and get something to eat. I'll call you when the reception starts." Lily tugged on my hand. "Mommy, are we going inside?" My mother didn't look at her. I stood there for a moment. The organ music shifted into something slow and ceremonial. Through the door, I could hear my aunt whisper something to my uncle. I could hear my mother's friend, Carol, say Rachel looked absolutely radiant. "Okay," I said. Not because it was okay, because I didn't want Lily to see me fall apart in a church vestibule. I carried her back to the car. I buckled her in. I sat in the driver's seat and I did not cry, because she was watching me from the back seat with those serious dark eyes, waiting to understand what was happening. "Are we going to the wedding?" she asked. "Not right now, sweetheart." "Why not?" I started the car. I drove to the diner on Route 9, like my mother told me to. I ordered Lily a grilled cheese and a chocolate milk. I ordered coffee I didn't drink. I sat across from my daughter and watched her color on the paper placemat with the 4 crayons the waitress had brought over. And I thought about the last 10 years. I thought about how I'd paid my own way through nursing school while my brother Daniel got his MBA fully funded by our parents. I thought about the apartment they'd helped Rachel put a down payment on and the used Civic I'd bought myself with 3 years of saved paychecks. I thought about the Christmases where Rachel's gifts took up half the living room and mine were an afterthought. I thought about how I'd told myself for years that it wasn't favoritism, it was just circumstances, it was just timing, it was just the way things worked out. I thought about the look on my mother's face when she'd positioned herself between me and the door to my sister's wedding. My phone buzzed. I looked at it expecting nothing good. It was my grandmother. Grandma Frances was my father's mother. She and my mother had always had a particular kind of relationship, polite, careful, each one very aware of where the other stood. When my father died 8 years ago, everyone assumed Grandma Frances would drift away from us. Instead, she'd stayed. She came to birthdays, she sent cards, she called me on random Tuesday afternoons just to talk. She was also the one who had, 3 years ago, paid off the last of my nursing school loans without telling me, and only admitted it when I called the loan servicer about a discrepancy and found a zero balance. "I'm at the church," her text said. "Where are you?" I stared at the message. I hadn't known she was coming. Rachel had never been particularly warm toward Grandma Frances. I assumed she hadn't been invited. I typed back, "Diner on Route 9. Mom said I wasn't on the seating chart." The 3 dots appeared immediately, disappeared, appeared again. "Stay there. I'll call you in a few minutes." Lily had finished half her grilled cheese and was now deeply invested in coloring the lobster on the placemat. I watched her and tried to imagine explaining to her someday why her grandmother had more warmth for strangers at a church door than she did for her own grandchildren. Because Lily was there too. My mother had looked right past her. My phone rang. "Frances," I said. "Tell me exactly what happened." Her voice was steady. She was 81 years old, and her voice had never once trembled in a single conversation I could remember. I told her, all of it. The parking lot, the vestibule, the blue dress, the word capacity. Lily asking why we weren't going inside. There was a silence on the other end that felt very full. "Claire," she finally said, "you have your car?" "Yes." "Lily's with you?" "Yes." "I need you to drive to my house. I'll meet you there in 20 minutes. Don't go anywhere else first." "Grandma, the reception—" "I know about the reception. 20 minutes." She hung up. I looked at Lily, who had now given the placemat lobster a purple bow tie. "We're going to Grandma Frances's house," I told her. Her face lit up immediately. "Does she have the cookies?" "She always has the cookies." Grandma Frances lived 22 minutes from the church in a house she'd owned for 50 years. It was a white colonial with black shutters and a garden that she tended herself every spring, even though her knees made her pay for it for a week afterward. She had a tin of butter cookies in a cabinet above the stove that had been there since I was 6 years old, always full, and I had never once seen her refill it. I pulled into her driveway, and she was already there, sitting on the front porch steps in her good gray dress, her small beaded purse in her lap. She stood when she saw my car. Lily ran up the porch steps, and Grandma Frances caught her in both arms and held her for a long moment, her eyes closed. Then she looked at me over Lily's shoulder, and something in her expression was different. Not sad, decided. "Come inside," she said. "Both of you." She got Lily settled at the kitchen table with the butter cookies and a glass of apple juice and put on the small television in the corner with a cartoon. Then she sat down across from me and folded her hands on the table. "I need to tell you something," she said, "and I need you to let me finish before you say anything." I nodded. "I've known for a long time what's been happening in this family," she said, not guessing, knowing. "Your father told me things before he died that he was too gentle to act on himself. And over the years since, I've watched. I've seen how you're treated compared to Rachel and Daniel. I've let it go on longer than I should have, because I kept hoping your mother would come around on her own. Today told me she won't." She paused. Outside, I could hear birds. Lily laughed at something on the TV. "When your father died," she continued, "he left his portion of several investments in my care. He asked me to hold them until I felt the time was right to pass them on. He didn't specify to whom. He trusted my judgment." She looked at me directly. "That was 8 years ago. I have been holding them." "Grandma, let me finish." She reached into her purse and took out an envelope. She set it on the table between us. "I also want to tell you about the house." "This house?" "I've been revising my estate plan for the past several months. I had my attorney finalize everything last Tuesday. This house, and everything in it, is going to you. Not split, not divided. Yours. The investments your father left are also going to you." She paused. "I called your mother this morning to tell her. She told me I was making a mistake and that I was being manipulated by you. She said it with quite a bit of confidence, considering she was the one calling you incapable of a proper RSVP 4 hours before your sister's wedding." I couldn't speak. "The envelope has the attorney's information," she said. "Everything is already in process. I wanted you to hear it from me first, in person, not through paperwork." I looked at the envelope, then at her. "Why are you telling me this now? Today?" "Because today needed to be the day," she said simply. "Your mother has been making you feel like you don't belong in your own family for years. I'm not going to let her do that today without consequence." She reached across the table and covered my hand with hers. Her hands were small and dry and very warm. "You belong, Claire. You have always belonged. The problem has never been you." Lily climbed down from her chair and came over and leaned against my arm, smelling like butter cookies. I finally let myself cry, not the falling apart kind. The kind that comes when something you've been holding for a long time is finally allowed to be put down. Grandma Frances handed me a paper napkin with small blue flowers printed on it. "Now," she said, "there's still a reception, and you are still invited to it, whether your mother likes it or not. Because I am also invited, and I will be walking in with you." I wiped my face. Grandma, that's going to cause a scene. I'm 81 years old, she said. I've been avoiding scenes my entire life. I think I've earned one. We drove to the reception together, Grandma Frances in my passenger seat, Lily strapped in the back asking questions about the cookies and whether there would be cake at the party and whether cake was better than cookies or the same. The venue was a converted barn about 15 minutes outside of town. String lights, round tables with white linens, a wooden dance floor. It was beautiful. Rachel had good taste. I had always known that about her. I had also always known that Rachel loved our mother's attention more than she loved being fair to me. They'd had that in common as long as I could remember. When I walked in, my mother saw me from across the room. I watched her face move through surprise, and then something harder. She started toward us. Then she saw Grandma Frances walking beside me, and she stopped. Grandma Frances raised her hand in a small wave. My mother's expression went somewhere I couldn't quite read. We found 2 seats at a table near the back. Lily discovered the candy at the centerpiece immediately, and I let her have 2 pieces. The dinner service started. A few relatives I liked came over to say hello. I felt, for the first time that day, like a person at a wedding, instead of an inconvenience outside one. About halfway through dinner, my mother came to our table. She sat down across from Grandma Frances. Not across from me, Frances, she said. I think we should talk. We are talking, Grandma Frances said pleasantly. She was eating her salmon. About this morning, about what you told me on the phone. What would you like to say about it? My mother glanced at me, then back at Grandma Frances. I think you've been given a very one-sided picture of this family. I've been in this family for 53 years, Grandma Frances said. I've been watching for all 53 of them. I don't think the picture I have is one-sided. Claire has always had a tendency to, your daughter, Grandma Frances said, and her voice was still pleasant, but something in it had gone very still, stood in the vestibule of a church tonight with her 4-year-old daughter and was told by her mother that she was not on the seating list. The church had empty seats. That little girl had on white tights and a dress with pink flowers because her mother told her she was going to her aunt's wedding. She set down her fork. I would very much like to know what tendency of Claire's explains that. My mother opened her mouth, closed it. I made my decisions, Grandma Frances continued. They are finalized. They are not about punishing you. They are about making sure that what Thomas wanted for his daughter is actually what happens. She picked up her fork again. I hope you enjoy the rest of the evening. My mother sat there for another moment. Then she stood up and walked back across the room. Rachel found me later, during the first dance. She came up beside me while I was watching her new husband spin her under the lights, and she stood there for a moment without saying anything. I didn't know Mom did that, she finally said. With the seating chart. I looked at her. I didn't design the chart, she said. I gave her the guest list and she handled the rest. I assumed you were on it. She paused. I should have checked. Yes, I said. You should have. She was quiet again. On the dance floor, her husband was laughing at something her cousin had said. Grandma Frances called me this afternoon, Rachel said. She told me what she's doing with the estate. I didn't say anything. I'm not angry at you, she said. I want you to know that. I know how it looks, but I'm not. I've known for a long time that the way things were in our family wasn't fair. She stopped. Started again. I didn't want to lose Mom's approval. I know that's not an excuse. No, I said, it isn't. She nodded, like she'd expected that, like she deserved it. I'm sorry, Claire, she said, for tonight, and for a lot of things before tonight. I watched her go back to her husband on the dance floor. I thought about what it would mean to forgive her and what it would mean not to. I thought about the dress with the pink flowers and Lily's face when I told her we weren't going inside. I thought about the fact that Rachel had known for years and had chosen comfort over honesty. I didn't have an answer that night. I'm not sure I have a clean one even now, but I know what I did have. I had Lily asleep in my arms an hour later, her head heavy on my shoulder, the string lights making her hair look gold. I had Grandma Frances beside me, telling me a story about my father as a young man, one I'd never heard before. I had the knowledge that somewhere in an attorney's office on the other side of town, paperwork existed that said I was not an afterthought, that someone who had known me my whole life had looked at everything and decided I was worth the most careful kind of protection. Not because I'd fought for it, not because I'd begged, because it was right. On the drive home, Lily woke up briefly when I was carrying her from the car to the house. Mommy, she said, her voice blurred with sleep. I've got you, I told her. Was there cake? I laughed. There was cake. Was it good? It was pretty good. She was asleep again before I laid her down. I stood in the doorway of her room for a long time. The nightlight was on. She had one arm thrown over her head the way she always slept. completely unguarded, completely trusting that the world would be okay by morning. I thought about what Grandma Frances had said on her porch. You belong, Claire. You have always belonged. The problem has never been you. I had been waiting to hear something like that for so long that I'd stopped knowing I was waiting. I finally heard it on the same day I'd been told I didn't fit on a seating chart. The same day my daughter had put on her best dress for a wedding she never got to see. The same day I sat in a diner parking lot wondering how many more times I could absorb being treated like an inconvenience by the people who were supposed to love me most. The answer, it turned out, was not one more time. Not because I was done fighting, because someone who had been paying attention for 53 years had already fought it for me. Grandma Frances passed away 14 months later. In the spring, in her own house, in her own bed, she had been tending her garden the week before. She left me the house, the investments, and the tin of butter cookies above the stove. The tin was full. I still don't know how she did that. I keep it on my kitchen counter now. I don't open it very often. Mostly I just look at it and remember that she was paying attention the whole time, even when I couldn't see it. Especially when I couldn't see it. Lily is 7 now. She asks about her sometimes. I tell her Grandma Frances was the kind of person who showed up. Not just when things were easy, not just when it was convenient. She showed up when it mattered, and she didn't make a show of it, and she didn't need to be thanked. Like you, Lily said once. I didn't know what to say to that. I'm still thinking about it. If you have someone in your life who shows up for you the way Frances showed up for me, who sees what's happening even when you've convinced yourself it's fine, who doesn't wait for you to ask for help before they decide you deserve it, hold on to that person. Tell them, not in a big way, just the ordinary way, just so they know that you know. And if you're the person who has been standing in a parking lot or a vestibule or a diner on Route 9, telling yourself, you're fine when you're not, I want you to hear this. The problem is not you. It has never been you. It is simply that you have been in the wrong room. And somewhere, someone is already deciding to open a different door.